TCU lands a four-star defensive back. They flip him from Oklahoma State, and this is a guy with ball skills that can make big plays in the secondary.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're brought to you today by Monarch Money. Take control of your wealth with Monarch Money. I'll tell you more about them later on in the show. We'll also discuss it's the middle of the 2026 recruiting season. TCU hard at work, the coaching staff trying to land 2026 prospects. They are in the top 3 for a 4-star wide receiver from Iowa Colony. What's up with these Big 12 quarterback lists not having Josh Hoover near the top? We'll discuss that later on in the show as well. But we start today with the news that TCU has landed 4-star defensive back Jason Bradford from Temple, Texas, played at Temple High School. Of course, Temple, good pipeline there of TCU talent. Quentin Johnston, Jared Wiley, who originally went to Texas but then transferred to TCU after a couple of years in Austin. This is exciting for me because actually last season, I had my first year getting to broadcast Temple High School games with my friend Ward Whites. So I was the color analyst and he did play-by-play. So I got to watch Jason Bradford up close and personal. He's a 4-star prospect. He played corner and plays corner at Temple High. Wildcats had 2 good corners this year. Jason Bradford on one side, Leslie Jackson on the other. Jackson graduated, and now Bradford will essentially assume that role of that top corner spot. But I hope to talk to his coach, Chad President, later on this week, because when I was talking to Jason earlier in the year about all the different programs that were giving him attention as a junior, he mentioned that most schools were recruiting him as a safety. Jeremy Clark from 247 Sports put out an article after the commitment saying that Jason Bradford was expecting to play safety at TCU. That's where he saw his future. So that's where they see him as at the next level. As far as who he is as a player, really physically talented guy. 6'2", 195 pounds, had 4 interceptions last year. And there was a game against Copperas Cove where they were playing Cove on the road. Game was kind of in the balance. It was an ugly night from a weather perspective. There was rain, it was cold, and it was that kind of just constant drizzle that makes everything slick. So it was tough for both offenses to get going. And even though Temple was a heavy favorite in that ball game, it was still in the balance. And on back-to-back plays, Jason Bradford had pick sixes that completely turned the face of that game around. The first pick six was actually on a little out route, a big hit by another Temple defender. Bradford, right place at the right time. It bounces to him. He intercepts it. He takes it to the house from about 75 yards out. The next play, so the ensuing kickoff, and then the next offensive play for Copperas Cove, they try to throw a quick little slant route to one of the inside wide receivers. Bradford reads it perfectly, steps right in front of it, takes it to the house again, and that pretty much ended the game. He also had an interception against Killeen this year and against Harker Heights. Played well against Duncanville. Temple's season, they made the playoffs. They finished third in District 12 6A. They ended up going D1 in the 6A ranks. So they played Duncanville in week 1 because they were matched up with 11 6A and by district. So their season came to an end during that ball, or at the end of that ball game. But Bradford equipped himself well. He played well. He's a physical player. He really likes to jam wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. He's good at doing that. Now, that doesn't really translate if he's going to play safety as much, but what it does tell you is he's a player that's not afraid to get up at the line of scrimmage and make sure tackles. And that was another thing that he did really well this year. In run support, in that screen game where they're just trying to pop it out to a wide receiver on the boundary, get 5 or 6 yards, get some positive yards on first down. Bradford was really good at shaking off blocks, getting off other wide receivers, and making tackles and making plays in those specific moments as well. So this is a good pickup. He's the highest rated recruit in this 2026 class right now. You take him from Oklahoma State, which was a program that had him committed, was very high on him. He had offers from a lot of other schools in the Big 12, like Arizona State, like Texas Tech, Houston, Kansas, among others. This is a very good player and a really good athlete. I think the next step for the San Diablos defense, splash plays. Part of that's rushing the passer, which is what he was known for before coming to TCU. Another part of that is having DBs that can create turnovers, get interceptions, create fumbles. Trey Watson, new safeties coach coming over from Cal, who will be Bradford's position coach if he does make that move to safety, which it sounds like he will. He's been known throughout his career as a guy who gets his DBs to play really well and force turnovers. They make those types of plays. And this is a dude who has great instincts, good ball skills, will step in front of a route, and is also physical, makes plays, makes things happen. One of his best games of the season in my mind. It wasn't a game where he had an interception, but Temple went on the road to play San Antonio Reagan. They had kind of an up and down start to the season. They were playing Reagan in San Antonio, and it was one of those like, man, this could be like if they lose this game, then the season could really turn on a dime. And Bradford was just fantastic in coverage all night long. He was physical. He was jamming wide receivers at the line. He had great communication with the other defensive backs. And San Antonio Reagan really, I mean, they couldn't do anything in the passing game that night. They ran the ball well, and that helped them stay in the game. But ultimately, the Temple defense won them that ball game. I'm really excited to see Bradford throughout his senior year make plays and then eventually move on to TCU. Gabe Brooks is a scouting analyst from 247 Sports. He says tall, long, big body for a defensive back prospect, likely possesses versatile position flexibility in a power four secondary, and really took a big leap in his junior year. His sophomore year, 28 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 INT. His junior year, 37 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions. So you see, especially with the INTs, a big uptick. But another key stat, 131 yards in return yardage when he picked off the ball. I mentioned those 2 pick sixes against Copper's Cove and against Killeen and Harker Heights too. When he made interceptions, he was taking the ball back. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being a punt returner this year. Leslie Jackson had that role last season for Temple. He moves on, and he was another one of those defensive backs that had good ball skills, was very explosive. When he would intercept a pass or cause a turnover, he would take it to the house. I could see Bradford playing a similar role during his senior season. And again, this is not a corner who's going to run away from contact. So I think part of the move to safety is you see on tape they're embracing the physical. He's embracing the physicality. He's there at the line of scrimmage making plays. He'll make tackles for loss. He's very active in the screen game, shedding blocks, making tackles there. So a lot to like about Jason Bradford as a player. I think this is a really good pickup for TCU. And it's always fun when you flip somebody from Oklahoma State. So some momentum building here for the Frogs. Vincent Johnson Jr., not a composite 4-star, or he is a composite 4-star. He's a 3-star according to 247 Sports. And he's the big offensive tackle that will be moving to the interior when he gets to college. And then Jason Bradford, 4-star composite, also a 4-star player, according to 247 Sports. Very explosive player. And this was a big deal to the Frogs. I saw on social media and in the pictures that Bradford posted when he announced on Twitter that he was making the move to TCU, had the Thorpe Awards in his hands. So Travius Hodges Tomlinson a few years back, he wins the Thorpe Award for best defensive back in the country. Before that, Trayvon Berg won the award for best defensive back in the country. They had that there on the visit. And they were like, look, we have a history here of creating and developing DBs who end up going on to make great plays in the league, can be elite players. That's the type of system that we have at TCU. Come be a part of it. And Trey Watson, super active on the recruiting trail already, landing a couple safeties within a few months for this 2026 class. And this is a class that so far is pretty small, but it feels like the momentum is starting to pick up. Also in the mix for a 4-star wide receiver in the top 3 there. You land Jason Bradford. You land Vincent Johnson. They're finding a foothold, this coaching staff is, with the 2026 class, making plays. Super excited to see what Jason does during his senior year at Temple, and then moving on to TCU as well. When we come back, I spent some time talking about Josh Hoover on Monday. I have some more thoughts on where he stands amongst Big 12 QBs. That's coming up next year on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Monarch Money, you cannot mess around with your finances. It's one of the conversations I have very frequently with my spouse. I know you do too. Had it just today, actually, because we're getting paid on Thursday. We got bills coming out. Okay, what do we need? Do we need to move some money around? What do we need to do? Monarch Money makes it simple for you. It's not just a budgeting app, but that's a big part of it. You can make your budgets there, but it's also a wealth management app. You can track your investments. It's all in one place, which is the coolest thing about it, the all-in-one convenience. Collaboration. So with your partner, you can see all your accounts in one place. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Give Monarch Money a try today. Again, 50% off when you use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com. On Monday, if you want to go back and check Monday's episode out, I talked about Josh Hoover, and it wasn't a new discussion. It's one that we had a lot during the season. For TCU's offense to be the best version of itself, you got to get the run game going. And yes, the biggest part of that is running the ball the traditional way with your offensive line, opening up holes for your running backs making things happen, right? That's the way we all know and love. They got to do that consistently to be a better offense. But there's also the factor of Josh Hoover making some plays with his legs. Now, understand me. It doesn't mean that he has to turn into a incredible dual threat quarterback who is explosive and can take the ball 60 yards to the house. Now, if he wants to do some of that, that'd be wonderful. But he doesn't have to be Max Duggan or Trayvon Boykin or even Andy Dalton. The balance he needs to strike, though, is there are times when he's rolling out of the pocket and there's open field in front of him. And yeah, it's really cool that he keeps his eyes downfield and he tries to allow his wide receivers to make things happen in the scramble drill and keeps plays alive. But sometimes it's better just to tuck the ball and go get a first down. Just move the chains. Give yourself an opportunity to make something happen. Or even if it's not moving the chains, 3rd and 4 is better than 3rd and 7. So on 2nd and 7, if you can get 3 or 4 yards and step out of bounds, go ahead and do that instead of throwing the ball 30 yards down the field, potentially into multiple defenders, right? And then also in the zone read game, can you pull the ball just every once in a while? So the defense at least has to consider the possibility that you might run those scenarios, and they can't just completely sell out to tackle your running back, right? All that being said, Josh is coming off a fantastic year. I felt like during the season he got better. He cleaned up those turnovers. He made a lot of plays. He had some clutch moments, against Kansas this past year. Against UCF, he got him down the field. Needed probably about 10 more yards to make that a more realistic kick. But he got them in a place where they could at least set up to attempt a game winner. He had some great moments. It's just about a little bit more consistency, right? But I've been looking at these Big 12 quarterback lists because we're in the middle of this season. Everybody's looking for something to break up the offseason monotony. And consistently, Josh is 5th, maybe 6th, and I've seen him 7th or 8th in some of these lists, and I just don't understand it. Now, some of these guys, I get it. Sam Leavitt, he's coming off a college football playoff appearance, a Big 12 championship. He had a really good year. He's returning in Kenny Dillingham's system. I think that running game is going to be formidable again, even with Cam Scatterbo leaving. He's a good quarterback. So you want to put him first? Okay. Even Rocco Becht. Understandable. Right? Iowa State made the Big 12 championship game. I think Josh has an argument, but I can see the point. Those guys have won some big games. That's one of the things on Josh's resume that he's lacking right now. But specifically, two of the players that I just don't really get. Sawyer Robertson is consistently second or third in these lists and tends to be ahead of Josh Hoover in all of them. And I understand in one head-to-head matchup, Sawyer won that game. But I feel like, and I've said this before, I think when it comes to the national media, even the regional media, because the list I'm referencing here is from a Salt Lake newspaper. But people across the board don't watch college football on a national scale. Like they watch their team, maybe they watch in their conference, and that's about it. And unfortunately, the way TCU season played out, after that Houston loss, there wasn't a big reason to pay attention to the Frogs. But Baylor had essentially the same year. They lost their bowl game. They beat TCU head-to-head. But it feels like a couple of people just decided that they should be the dark horse pick to win the Big 12, and Sawyer Robertson's going to be this amazing player. And then everyone just sort of ran with it. And now it's just like, oh, yeah, he's going to be the guy. We know this. I mean, he basically played half a season now. I understand. He threw for over 3,000 yards. He was really good. Bryson Washington, the running back, was a huge part of that as well. I actually think he was the bigger part of this. But Josh Hoover has more experience. He's coming off a very accomplished season. And he's also returning to a team that has a lot of talent coming back, that has continuity with their coordinators, with their coaching staff. So I don't understand it. I just don't get it. And then Avery Johnson as well. And I know Will Howard, who just won a national title. Kansas State said, see you later, buddy, in favor of starting Avery Johnson. That's how much they believed in the young QB. And he had a decent year. He's a dual threat player. But he's better than Josh Hoover. I don't know. I think he has higher expectations than Josh Hoover. I think he had more hype going into the season, certainly, than Josh Hoover did. He threw for 25 touchdowns, 10 picks, 2,700 yards passing. So Hoover with a big advantage from a passing perspective, but Avery Johnson has that dual threat ability. However, last season, 372 yards on the ground. Or excuse me, I read that wrong. 605 yards on the ground. So, okay, I get that. The dual threat aspect of it. But still, it's not like you rush for 1,000 yards. He has that ability, and that's a huge part of his game. But as a passer, I think Josh is much more accomplished. Now, at the end of the day, how much does this matter? No, it doesn't, right? Like, the games are going to be played. The credit will go where the credit's due. And if Josh has a good season and TCU wins big games, then he'll get the attention that he deserves. But I think this is simply a case of a lot of people just kind of tuned out on TCU in the back half of the year, and they haven't really come back to a place where they understand who this team is and what they could do this upcoming season. But I think Josh is a really good quarterback, and he's going to prove that. And if he does, then all of this is sort of a wash anyway, right? When we come back, Frogs in the mix for a 4-star wide receiver. We'll talk about that next year on Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team. We do it every day. So this 2026 class gaining some momentum. One player that they lost a few months ago, that was actually part of the class for a long time, was the first commit they had. Brock Boyd, wide receiver from South Lake Carroll, had a really productive sophomore and junior season for the Dragons, but TCU has been at work trying to land another wide receiver, and they're in the mix for a 4-star wideout from Iowa Colony, Jaden Warren. The schools they're competing against, Houston and SMU. Warren is 6'1", 195 pounds. Last season had 14 touchdowns, 26 receptions, 613 yards receiving. He's also a track athlete, plays basketball too. He averaged 23 yards per catch last year. So this is a dude who can make things happen vertically. He can go down the field and stretch the field. TCU constantly needs players like that within their system. This would be a big pickup. He has announced that his decision will be on July 13th. So got a little bit of time to continue to build that relationship and work on it as much as possible before the announcement's made. But this would be a really good pickup if they can land him. 50-50 balls, he'll go get them. Being able to run down the field, make plays. Last season, Jack Besh, especially as the year went on, he really took that role over. And I don't know who's going to be this year. I mean, Eric McAllister is the obvious candidate, but then Jordan Dwyer at Idaho had a really good season being a deep threat. I mean, the production, 26 catches. You'd like to see some more receptions, but I think 23 yards per catch and 14 touchdowns makes up for that. So you understand, like, when he does catch the ball, he's somebody that's making plays. Malcolm Kelly, I trust him in these recruiting battles, man. He's done an outstanding job through the years of landing blue chip wide receivers and also developing them. I don't really worry. I mean, like, it's naive to say, well, you never have to worry about this. I rarely worry about TCU having talented wide receivers. And part of it's the coaching staff. Sonny Dykes is an offensive mind. Malcolm Kelly is a really good position coach. Kendall Briles, as an offensive coordinator, is known to get the ball into the hands of his playmakers. So there's that appeal. Sonny talked in a press conference this season about how they felt like they had a really good selling point to wide receivers in the transfer portal. Just when you look at Jack Besh and Savion Williams, how they're able to unlock both of those guys. You know, when the year starts, nobody expects Jack Besh to be an outside wide receiver. He takes that role and just runs with it and doesn't relinquish it. In the middle of the year last year, Savion Williams, it's like, hey, we need somebody who can run the ball and make things happen that way. Let's give him a shot. And he took advantage of his opportunities, right? Which was really good to see. So that's a big part of it. But then also, like, the state of Texas, man, skill players, I mean, there's just always really good wide receivers in the state. So there's great depth there as well. And I don't feel like you have to worry about, oh man, are they going to find somebody who can fit the prototype of what they want? And Jaden's a big player. I mean, over 6 feet tall, almost 200 pounds. Probably some areas to grow in that frame too. So he's got the type of physical build and tools that you want for somebody who's going to step in and be an immediate impact player in a couple of years. And it would just be good for, I think, morale, for optics, if you can win a recruiting battle against SMU, because there's a ton of hype and just good vibes around that program right now. They embarrassed you last year. So a chance to win that game at home this season. Before you do that, win a recruiting battle this summer. And then also Houston with Willie Fritz at the helm. They've been a lot more active with big time prospects. So winning the battle against them would be significant as well. But this upcoming year, I mean, Ed Small, Terry Shelton, Eric McAllister, Jordan Dwyer, Braylon James. TCU knows how to stack talent at the wide receiver position. And this is another player that checks a lot of the boxes. Big, physical, can win those one-on-one matchups, can be a big target for your quarterback, and has an ability to stretch the field and give you that, vertical passing game that you need to have a completely balanced offense. So we'll keep an eye on that over the next few weeks as it unfolds. We'll be back on Friday to close out the week strong. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel.